Hello. Waiting for more people to join us. Yes, I'm having a bad hair day. Ooh, I have a fly in my office that is just driving me nuts. Yes, I'm doing 2 lives simultaneously, TikTok and YouTube. I've not done this before, but this subject I thought was very, very important. It's about the Authors Guild lawsuit filed against several people today regarding the open library. Open library is not, as many people like to believe, a legitimate site. It is not. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. Just bear with me because got a couple different windows open all at the same time. And oops, there we go. Okay. So yes, I have several different windows open all at once, and I just wanted to discuss it. And this was filed by the Authors Guild. On Friday, I'm just going to read directly from their website. So for those of you who don't know, the Authors Guild is a group that helps authors on all sorts of topics, from pirating to all sorts of different things. So if you're an author and you've not heard of it, I recommend you go to theauthorsguild.org and check it out and join. So this is from today. On Friday, August 12th, 2022, the Authors Guild filed an amicus brief in Hatchet v. Internet Archive, the publisher's lawsuit against Internet Archive's unauthorized scanning and distribution of books through the Open Library platform. Where were you January 6, 2020? Oh my God, you were so funny. This isn't about that. This is about people stealing our books. Okay. So if you want to talk about something political, I suggest you go find somebody else. Okay. So anyway, back to this. More than 20 other organizations representing U.S. and foreign writers, genres, photographers, and playwrights signed on. The friend of the court brief submitted in the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York explains the many ways in which open library harms authors and the serious consequences that would follow if Internet Archive's practices were upheld. The brief explains that Internet Archive's scanning and distribution of entire books is infringing, and it is not fair use under any copyright law theory. Now, many of you have heard about fair use. So people can take a snippet, a paragraph or something from a book or a sentence from a movie and use it to create something. Okay, that's fine. I've got no problem with a snippet, a sentence or two. No problem with that at all. What I have a problem with is when these websites take entire movies, artwork, books, and upload them to these illegal downloading sites and either and sell them or give them away. That's stealing. Okay. Making copies of copyrighted work, including in different formats, and providing copies to third parties, all without authorization of the copyright owner, as Internet Archive is doing with its Open Library project. So this goes back to that video I did the other day where people were saying, oh no, it's legitimate. It's legitimate. It's legitimate. No, it's not. It's not. It's not a legitimate place to get books. The name itself is very, very misleading. If third parties are allowed to make copies of books in any format and sell or give the copies away without permission, those free copies compete with the authors and make it impossible for an author to earn income from their books. For trade author books, that means they need to take on other income producing work and have no financial incentives to publish. The brief cautions the court that allowing Internet Archive's practices to continue and others to do the same, as would be in the case if Internet Archives prevails, would have devastating effects on the markets that authors rely on for their incomes. First, any entity calling itself a library could simply scan physical books instead of purchasing ebook licenses as they do now. Authors receive a share, generally 25% of those sales. The easy availability of free ebook copies through a simple Google search would also hurt the consumer ebook market and disincentivize readers from buying licensed ebooks. And this is what I have been talking about forever, are these illegal book downloading websites. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I just jumped in and started because it just really pisses me off. So for those of you watching on YouTube, if you could do the like and subscribe things and turn on your notifications and share, I'd appreciate it. And for those of you on TikTok, if you could share the video and tag your fellow author friends, I would appreciate that too. Let's see. So I want to get back to this, to the lawsuit. I'm going to jump into that. I got to pull it up. Okay. And I believe I posted this stupid fly. We had a party at our house this weekend with a lot of little kids, and every time the door opened, more flies came in, and it's just driving me nuts. Oh, thank you, Rhonda. I appreciate that. I really do. So this is the actual lawsuit that I'm going to read from, and I put in my YouTube video the link to the actual lawsuit itself so that you all could read it yourselves. So this is in the United States District Court, Southern District of New York. The plaintiffs are Hatchet Book Groups, Inc., HarperCollins Publishers, LLC, John Wiley & Sons, Inc., and Penguin Random House, LLC. So we've got some big traditional publishing houses here, right? Big names. They are the plaintiffs in this case. Versus Internet Archive and Doe's 1 through 5 inclusive. So when you have a Doe listed, a Jane Doe, John Doe, whatever, that means they are not quite sure who owns this particular website, right? And trust me, they're going to find out. Proposed Memorandum of Law of Amica Curiae, the Authors Guild, Inc., Western Writers of America, Canadian Authors Association, American Photographic Artists, the Writers Union of Canada, International Authors Forum, on and on and on. This is a motion for summary judgment, okay? Let's get down here. Boy, a lot of citations. Preliminary statement. Amica Curiae, the Authors Guild, Inc., Western Writers, again, all of these people, respectfully submit this proposed memorandum of law in support of their motion to file Amica Curiae brief and proposed Amica Curiae brief in support of Plaintiffs Hatchet Group, Inc. Motion for summary judgment. The amici are all organizations that represent the professional interests of writers and other creators. The identity and interest of each of the amici are set forth in the attached appendix. So, summary of argument. Defendant Internet Archive, we're going to call them IA, has engaged and continues to engage in willful infringement of plaintiffs' copyrighted literary works, we're going to call those the works, on a massive scale. Through its so-called open library program, the open library website I did my video on the other day, IA has created a vast, unauthorized online database of literary works that anyone in the world can access for free, which differs from the most flagrantly illegal pirate website, chiefly by reason of its enormous scale. IA has reproduced and distributed digital copies of these works under the pretext that it is merely a library, loaning books to its patrons by means of a process it refers to as controlled digital lending, or CDL, which in reality is neither controlled nor limited to lending. I want to see. Okay, so think of it this way. About 2 years ago, an author filed and won a lawsuit against an infamous pirate who I affectionately refer to as Reverend Peckerhead. Reverend Peckerhead had this illegal book and movie downloading site, and he tried to stand behind the argument that it was his religion to copy, steal, and disseminate all these books and movies to anyone he wanted to for free. Okay, that was his argument. So he was trying to hide behind the freedom of religion argument. He lost. These people who run the Internet Archive / Open Library, right? They tried to hide behind the term library. Okay, well, just because you call yourself a library doesn't mean you are one, and just because you call yourself a pastor doesn't mean you are one. Okay? So what they do is they get copies of our books, scan them, illegally download them. This fly. Download them and then put them up on this website where anybody and his brother can come in and just grab it for free. Okay? So why are authors pissed? We're pissed for lots of reasons. But when we sat down and did the math, in the last 5 or 6 years, these illegal downloading sites have cost authors around the world, bare minimum, $4 billion, and that's billion with a B, dollars in revenue. Now, they like to say that they're only screwing the big corporations and the retailers. Well, that's not true. I am an indie author. That means I am the CEO of my S Corp. Yes, I have an S Corp. I am the president, the CEO, chief bottle washer, everything. I own my own business. I do not have a publisher like HarperCollins or Hachette or Random House or anything like that. I am the publisher, right? And I write my books and I sell them on legitimate websites like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple, Nook, legitimate websites. So when pirates take my books, they're taking my money. And it's not just me that they're hurting. They hurt hundreds of thousands of authors worldwide. They are not screwing the publishers, right? They're not screwing the publishers like they think they are. They're screwing the little guy. It's always the little guy who gets screwed in situations like this. Okay, so back to the lawsuit. As set forth more fully below, open library is not a fair use. It means they're not taking 1 or 2 sentences to use fairly in whatever format they want to. Moreover, it is irreconcilable with several fundamental principles of U.S. copyright law, including the statute's recognition of a copyright owner's separate exclusive rights of distribution and reproduction under 17 U.S.C. 106, and the express limitations Congress placed on the first sale doctrine, which permits distribution but not reproduction of lawfully made physical copies of a work under 17 U.S.C. 109. If open libraries practices are found legal, any website calling itself a library could digitize or copy any in-copyright creative works and lend out copies, including in a manner that actually downloads the copies on users' computers. This will gut copyright law and, as a result, will greatly diminish our country's literary and other creative output. IA's policy arguments regarding these statutory provisions must in any event be addressed to Congress, not to this court. IA's implausible assertion of fair use merely rehashes arguments that this court, the Second Circuit, and the U.S. Supreme Court have squarely and consistently rejected. Open Library's digitization and distribution of plaintiffs' works is not transformative, including by the standards of the Second Circuit in Authors Guild v. Google and Authors Guild v. HathiTrust. on which IA purports to rely, but instead uses the literary works in their entirety for their original intended purposes, merely providing a free substitute for authorized library ebook lending. Now, legitimate libraries, like your local library, your county library, your city library, they buy our ebooks, okay? We generally give a discount on that. They either buy our paperbacks, our ebooks, and in some cases, our audiobooks, okay? When a library does that, the author gets paid, and we have no problem with that legitimate library lending out our books. We're fine with that. That's fine because the book was originally purchased, okay? I have no problem with a friend or anybody buying a paperback and of any of my books and loading them out to friends. I've got no problem with that because it was legally purchased to begin with. But what people don't realize about this lending library, as it likes to refer to itself, is they aren't purchasing the books, okay? They're just taking them. They're just stealing them. They either scan them or they what they like to do is buy an original copy, an ebook, download it, strip it of its all of its digital rights management and stuff, put it up on their website, and then return the original book. Okay? When a book is returned to any vendor, doesn't matter where it is, whether it's a digital book, an audiobook, or a paperback, the author does not get paid for those returns. But that's another story for another time. Back to the lawsuit. IA's infringements have caused and will continue to cause significant harm to Amica's members. Many members' works are part of the long tail of older published works that can earn much of their revenue from licensed electronic uses rather than sales of new copies. Because authors and many other creators today generally earn so little from their writing, I'm the exception to that. I do make a really decent living, but we're not talking about that right now. And other creators who depend on it. IA itself concedes, see IAM Memorandum ECF 106 at page 13, that libraries will likely shift their infinite or their finite acquisition resources away from ebook licenses for older titles. If this court allows them to offer ebooks of those older works to users for free. So the works that IA has unilaterally deemed unworthy of full copyright protection are the very ones whose creators will be most significantly harmed by IA's willful and widespread infringement. So what they're trying to say, another of their arguments, is that they're not doing new books. They're only doing really old books. Doesn't matter. I don't care if the book was released this morning or if it was released 30 years ago. It's not your book. You didn't buy it. You didn't pay for it. You don't get to have it. Further, creators and their publishers will find it more challenging to bring older titles back into print, whether in physical or electronic form, if they must compete with free open library generated ebooks from IA. Such free open library generated ebooks will also create a direct market substitute for authorized lending by libraries outside the US, which lending, unlike open library, generates royalties for creators under the public lending right recognized by other countries. Okay, so this boils down to they're stealing our freaking books and they're making money off of it. This is how these websites make their money. Some of them will do a subscription. Okay, give me $5.99 a month and you can read all the books you want to for free. Some of these places will do a paper book. Okay, not a legitimate site. The book was illegally obtained. Okay, illegally obtained. Another way they do it is through advertising. Okay, remember me talking about Reverend Peckerhead a few minutes ago? That's one of the ways he made his big money was via advertising. And because he had so many followers on his website, thieves is what they are. Anybody who takes a book that they didn't pay for via one of these illegal downloading websites is a thief. I don't care. You can try to put pig on a lipstick on a pig, is still a pig. They're still thieves. Anybody who utilizes these websites for any reason is a thief. So when they have 100,000 subscribers or 200,000 subscribers or 500,000 subscribers, they are able to monetize their websites. Okay. So Coca-Cola will come in understanding what this website is. All they see are the algorithms and, oh my gosh, they have this many subscribers, and they will start to purchase advertising on these websites. Okay. The author who sat her ass in her chair for 6 months or 3 months or however long it took you to write the book gets nothing. Okay. We get absolutely nothing from these websites. Back to the lawsuit, the brief. The court should harbor no illusions. The public-spirited veneer of library lending behind which IA seeks to disguise its massive infringement is a Trojan horse. It undermines the careful balancing of interests that Congress codified in the Copyright Act and poses a grave threat to the livelihoods of countless individual copyright owners who are members of the Amica. The plaintiff's motion for summary judgment should be granted in all respects. So they're right. It is a Trojan horse. Again, you can call yourself a library. I could start calling myself the supreme omnipotent despotic ruler of the universe. Doesn't make me one. Okay. Just because you call something doesn't mean that's what it actually is. So they are hiding like cowards. Hey, from Tennessee, sending you all the love and positivity. Have an amazing day. Well, thank you, Rachel. I appreciate that. Hi, Shannon. Thank you. Yeah, the author gets 0. We get nothing. Okay. Now, how would you like to go to work every single day at your day job or your night job or whatever, and someone comes along and says, hey, I'm going to take your paycheck. I don't think you deserved it. You've already made enough money this month or this year. You're really super rich, when in truth you're not. How would you feel? You'd be pissed as hell. You wouldn't stand for it. You would call the police. You would say, hey, this guy just stole my paycheck. And the grounds for stealing that paycheck was because he believed I'd already made enough money this year or this month or this week or whatever. It's the same damn thing. When you steal an author's book, you are stealing their money. I'm not trying to separate the fly shit from the pepper. Honest to God, I'm not. But it's just that plain and that simple. When you steal something, it's stealing. Plain and simple. It's all it is. It's just stealing. So here's the argument. Number 1, open library is not fair use. Okay. The inapplicability of fair use to book digitization technologies, such as open library, is well settled. In June 2015, the Copyright Office published a report on the subject of orphan works and mass digitization, which specifically considered inter alia whether mass digitization by libraries could be entitled to a fair use defense under Article 107. The Copyright Office stated at 19 that there is broad agreement that no colorable fair use claim exists for providing digital access to copyrighted works in their entirety. Since that time, significant fair use decisions that have spoken to the issue, including Google Books and Capitol Records v. Redigi Inc., have only reinforced that conclusion. Open library is not a transformative use, meaning they're not taking a part of our works and changing it to the point that it's no longer recognizable. People can sometimes do that with photographs, and they take a photograph and maybe cut it up into a million pieces and then reassemble it differently to where it's no longer recognizable. Open library is not a transformative use. It is merely a new spin on the much discredited space shifting or format shifting argument that internet-enabled infringers from the Napster onward tried and failed to foist on the courts. As the Ninth Circuit noted in Disney Enters v. VidAngel, blah, 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 the reported decisions unanimously reject the view that space shifting is fair use under 107. Rejecting space shifting that simultaneously involves distribution of the copyrighted materials to the general public. Okay, space shifting. So let's say there is a picture of Sam Heughan from Outlander, okay? Someone grabs it off the internet, and let's say it's a beautifully colored, it's all in full color photograph, but somebody turns it into a black and white photograph and then tries to sell it at their own. That is not enough of a transformation in that instance for that person to claim it as their own work. I hope that makes sense. Although IA does not employ the vocabulary of space shifting or format shifting in this litigation, perhaps because the courts have so often rejected those arguments, open library, in fact, does nothing other than change the format in which a literary work is embodied so that the work, not the copy, can be made available to readers in different locations. The so-called white paper on CDL, upon which IA and its amici rely heavily, concedes the point. See David Hansen v. Kyle Courtney, blah, blah, blah. Therefore, open library is not a transformative use. The Second Circuit in Google Books states explicitly that recasting of a novel as an ebook, as IA does here, fails to involve the kind of transformative purpose that favors a fair use finding. So they take these paperbacks, scan them, return the paperback, but then put their copy up on their website. Because the Second Circuit itself began by noticing that the case tests the boundaries of fair use, this court should not expand the definition of transformative use to reach a fact pattern that Google Books itself flatly declared to fall outside those boundaries. Yes, I'm using my I Have Questions mug. I got it from the Emily D. Baker. God, I love her. I do. I just love her to death. I'm one of her biggest fans. So yes, I have one of her coffee cups because I have questions too. We all have questions. As the Second Circuit has recognized, an ebook is not a transformative use of a print book. To the contrary, it's merely another format in which the underlying literary work can be exploited. The practices of the publishing industry are built around this distinction between print, electronic, audio, and other formats. Authors monetize their copyrights by granting specific rights to publishers. As provided by the Copyright Act, an author may choose to transfer, usually by license, her copyright ownership in whole or in part, and may choose to license certain of her exclusive rights but retain the others. So that means I write a book, but I'm going to give my cousin permission to maybe create a comic book for it. Okay, that's what they're talking about. Congress expressly recognized the importance of the divisibility of these exclusive rights by providing in the text of the statute that any subdivision of any of the rights specified by Section 106 may be owned separately. So the cousin took my book and turned it into a coloring book or a comic book. Let's say she did a comic book. She owns the right to that comic book. Okay, because I know she's not going to take my book entirely, word for word, page for page, and turn the entire text of that novel into a comic book. Okay, I know she's going to just take bits and pieces. I'm okay with that. Let's see. Each of the exclusive rights enumerated in Section 106 may be subdivided indefinitely, and each subdivision of an exclusive right may be owned and enforced separately. Okay, so I can say, yes, my cousin can do that. But if somebody else does it, I can say, no, you can't. I've already given that right to my cousin. Determining how to separate and monetize their bundle of rights requires authors and their representatives to make careful decisions about how they want their work to be released and exploited, including when, in what territories, and in which formats. In recent years, given the advent of technology that makes reading literary works on electronic devices possible, along with the growing popularity of ebooks, the decision of whether to grant licenses to ebooks and other electronic rights are key considerations for authors and other creators. Whether authors choose to publish with a traditional publisher or self publish, that's me, however, the agreements always specify the precise rights and formats being licensed. IA's actions here undercut that exclusivity and interfere with authors' abilities to separately license their rights. Is this making sense? Oh, lots of comments. I am so sorry. Yeah, it does sometimes feel like a game of whack-a-mole. Uh, let's see. Oh yeah. This is Rhonda, this is one of the biggest pirate sites out there. I need to come up with a really good name for Open Library because we had a good one for Travis. Remember Travis? Reverend Peckerhead? We've got to come up with a really good name for the owners of Open Library. And I don't think scum sucking SOBs, I think I might get in trouble for that one. So we won't do that one. So, yeah, another thing people don't realize is when we find our books on these websites, and there are thousands of these websites, I kid you not, okay? And they have all sorts of tricks to get around our DCMAs, our DMCAs, our digital rights management. It's a letter we send saying, you do not have permission to have my book on your website. Please take it down. Yes, Elizabeth Wheatley, this was an impromptu live. I just had to talk about this because I was getting really pissed. But I was really happy to see that HarperCollins and everybody has filed this lawsuit. Okay. Back to the brief. If IA's arguments in this litigation were accepted, any author or other creator who conveyed to a publisher the right to sell print copies of a work of authorship would be de facto be granting IA and other online self-titled or actual libraries the right to reproduce and distribute work that in electronic form as an unintended third-party beneficiary of the grant of print rights. So I give a legitimate library, like my local library, the Market Heights Library, the right to distribute copies of my ebooks, copies of my paperbacks. That does not mean that someone can come in, take the paperback, take the audiobook, take the ebook, upload it to their own website and give it away for free. I'm not transferring the rights that I gave the library. Is this making sense? If you've got any questions, type them in the comments, okay? Lots of comments. So I hope I'm making sense, and I hope I'm able to help you better understand why stealing our books is such a bad thing. And to those of you who commented on my TikTok video the other day about how Open Library is a legitimate site, bite me. It is not a legitimate site. And then there was someone who commented, well, have you ever heard of the movie Hurt Locker? If it hadn't been pirated, it would never have won an Oscar. I'm going to call bullshit on that. Okay. So if that argument is true, then all the thieves who have stolen my books over the years, because of them, I should have won a Pulitzer by now. See, kind of falls, it falls flat. Okay. Back to this. The copyright statute allows the owner of a lawfully made physical copy to dispose of that copy as they wish. So someone buys a physical copy, a paperback or a hardcover of one of my books. They can give it away. They could sell it at a yard sale. They could throw it in the trash. They've already purchased that physical copy. They can do with it whatever they please. Ignore me. My allergies are just horrible today. IA's logic would extend that rule to allow the recipient of that physical copy to make additional copies of the underlying work in different formats, meaning that a copyright owner would have no ability to license rights separately. Needless to say, such a rule would gut copyright law and the divisibility of rights that is so central to the 1976 Copyright Act. So you buy a physical copy of my book, you can't go home and scan it into your computer and then use your printer to print off 1,000 copies and sell those. That doesn't give you that right. You have a right to that one specific copy that you purchased to loan it to somebody. While we're here, don't forget to share the video. I'm being reminded that I need to remind people to share the video and hit like and subscribe. Let's see. The Copyright Act instead rejects any such mandatory bundling of print publication rights and other economically significant rights. There is no compulsory license for digital derivatives of literacy, pictorial, or other works of authorship, let alone one that is triggered simply by virtue of print publications of such works. Those rights are separate, and as a practical matter, they are separately conveyed by authors. As noted above, when an author publishes a literary work, he or she typically makes separate grants of print rights, audio rights, ebook rights, and other rights. So, like t-shirts, mugs, mouse pads, whatever. When an author publishes a literary work, he or she typically separates grants of prints or print rights, audio rights, ebook rights, and other rights, whether to different publishers or to one publisher under a single agreement. Each of the rights granted is taken into account in negotiating the advance paid to the author and the other commercial terms of the publishing contract. So for traditionally published authors, some people will, I'm going to use Harlequin because everybody knows Harlequin. An author writes a book. Harlequin says we want it, but we only want the print rights, or we only want the ebook rights, or we want the print and the audio, but you get to keep the digital rights. So for like ebooks, okay? Does that make sense? I hope this makes sense. This material interference is not without financial consequence, as it would severely diminish the value of those rights for authors, because authors will no longer have the ability to grant exclusive ebook rights to potential licenses and fully exploit their rights in each separate format, which in turn will result in a loss of market opportunity and revenue streams. And it does. It costs us, I'm not talking nickels and dimes here, people. Again, we've done the math. We have filed the IC3 complaints with the FBI. We have studied this. We have done everything we can. And if our calculations are correct, and I'm pretty sure they're spot on because someone else did the math, not me. I suck at math. We're talking over $4 billion in royalties have been stolen from authors, just authors. I'm not talking about artists, musicians whose music is stolen, the illegal movie downloading sites. I'm not talking about those. This is just on what authors and publishers have lost over the last several years. We're talking $4 billion with a B dollars. It just pisses me off to no end. What? Oh, God, I love technology. I really do. And again, if you've got any questions at any time, just put them in the comment section and I will try to answer your questions. And I'm just trying to make more sense for you. Okay. B, open library CDL practices are certain to cause significant harm to authors' incomes. Again, we've been discussing that. That's the whole point behind this. So they take a copy of a book, whether it's 24 hours old or 24 years old, they scan it and then turn it into an ebook. Okay. When you do that, It's stealing. You're a thief. You're a low-life, scum-sucking thief. Just my personal opinion. As the plaintiffs have described, open library offering of ebooks serves as a direct substitute for authorized sales and licenses of ebooks. As such, it currently causes and is likely to cause even more harm in ensuing years to the ebook markets. Each lost sale by their publishers results in a direct loss of income for authors. Authors, when publishing through traditional publishers, such as the plaintiffs in this case, are generally paid a royalty for each copy of the book sold. The royalty rate is a percentage of either the list price of the book or the net receipts, with different rates for different formats. Today, most publishers pay authors 25% of the net receipts for ebooks, including library licenses. Because and we're talking legitimate libraries, not IA, not open library. Because legitimate library licenses are generally more expensive than sales of ebooks to consumers, the author share is a greater total amount. For instance, a library license to an ebook priced at $35 would result in a royalty of $8.75 as compared to $3 for the consumer ebook priced at $12. So they're using traditional publishing figures. Indie published authors like myself, we don't set our prices that high, but it's the same concept. Accordingly, authors stand to lose significant income from open library substitution of the library licenses alone if the court were to erroneously find that IA's use were fair use. Moreover, open library also replaces sales directly to consumers, as so many consumers will choose free ebooks over purchasing an ebook, and this further results in lost incomes for authors. So I know there are I have tons of readers who will tell me, I only buy my books from Amazon or Nook or Apple or Kobo, okay? Because they don't want to make the mistake of going somewhere outside of that and getting a free copy of a book that might be pirated. But I don't know of enough people out there who have that high moral compass to go out of their way to make sure that the author isn't getting screwed. Hi, Gigi. Let's see. So yeah, consumers will choose free. I mean, I love saying if it's free, it's for me, but I mean, like, a free dinner on my birthday or buy one, get one free. I don't illegally download movies or books or art or anything like that. Because I know the work that goes into creating things, whether it's a book, a work of art, a movie, music, a sculpture, whatever. I know, coming from a creator standpoint, just how difficult that process is. Last, and perhaps most importantly, from author's perspective, open libraries practices, especially should they become widespread and unrestricted, will eradicate the market for authors bringing the books back into print after publishers have ceased selling their books and the authors have reclaimed their rights. So let's say you have a contract with a traditional publisher for 5 years. When that 5 years is up, you get your rights back to that book and you can do whatever you want to with it. You can publish it independently or lock it in a safe. It's up to you. So when on these older books, an author gets their rights back, now they have to compete with these illegal downloading sites. And that's sometimes difficult. IA admits, see ECF 106 at page 13, that libraries will shift finite resources away from ebook licenses for older titles. Instead of removing those ebooks from their catalogs, libraries will use controlled digital lending to provide ebooks to their users. This will greatly reduce ebook sales for backlist books. Now, backlist books, for those of you who aren't authors, those are your older books. The backlist is extremely important revenue for both publishers. It is extremely important. Doesn't matter if you're indie or traditionally published, your backlist is important. In 2019, backlist books comprised 63% of overall US book sales. This figure jumped even higher during the pandemic when 67% of all US book sales were backlist titles. In this way, the author will not only be deprived of income from licensing, but the availability of free unlicensed copies will hinder library patrons from buying the book. Moreover, if IA's open library practices become widespread, which will occur if IA wins this lawsuit, every library can start making digital copies instead of licensing ebooks, and the long tail will fizzle out, eviscerating the potential market for authors to bring their books back into print. A market that I'm finding typos in this, and it's a little off-putting, but I gotta deal with it. A market that older authors in particular are reliant on simply to put food on the table, and that is not an over-exaggeration. Okay. This is how I make my living, is through writing. I have 4 children. I have 4 grandchildren. I've got a 79-year-old father. I've got brothers. I've got my husband's entire family. Because I am blessed in doing what I do, I am able to stay home and write full time. And when I need to, I can take time off to go help an elderly parent, to go help a sister-in-law, to go help a grandchild, to do whatever. I'm really, truly blessed. But if I didn't get paid for doing what I do, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. Does that make sense? So when I say the feeds are taking food out of our mouths, that's the truth. Okay. Now, some of the arguments will be that, well, the author had it listed for free. There's a reason why we do that. Okay. There's a legitimate reason why we sometimes offer our books for free. And sometimes we have perma-free books. Okay. And there's a reason for that. We want to get you engaged with that series. Okay. So a lot of times I've done it before where I have a first in series for free, but that's my choice. Just because I have it listed for free somewhere does not mean every low-life scum-sucking thief of books can grab that free copy and offer for free on their websites. It's not the same thing. Okay, moreover, when that happens, the harm caused by open library will extend not just to the exploitation of copyright owners' existing works, but will also disadvantage copyright owners in future contract negotiations, as the availability of a no-cost library ebook option will devalue any ebook rights such copyright owners may be able to convey to publishers. A publisher could not rationally be expected to pay much, if anything, to the author for the right to license ebooks to libraries if Open Library can make such access universally available to readers without consent by or payment to publishers. Accordingly, the disappearance of this market would be devastating for the members of the AMICA. So, would you go to work for free? Will you go clock in at 5:30 in the morning somewhere and work 8, 9, 10, 12-hour shifts for free? Would you do that? Would you work for free 40, 50, 60 hours a week without any compensation for your hard work? I don't think so. And that's how authors feel. Why would we want to sit our butts in a chair 10, 12, 18 hours a day to create content that's just going to be free? I don't know why some people think they are justified in stealing creative works. And that's what this all boils down to. It's the stealing of creative works. They justify stealing books, music, audiobooks, art, movies. They justify it by saying, well, it doesn't hurt anybody. Yeah, it does. Or they justify it by saying, well, they charge too much. $3.99 is too much for you to pay for a book, or $4.99 or $5 or $6.99. $8.99 to rent a movie, 99 cents for a song. That's too much. You justify it by saying we charge too much, or we've already made enough money, or it doesn't hurt anybody. I've heard all the arguments. I really, truly have. And if a book thief, I would love to have a sit down with those people who own the Open Library website and have them debate with me why they think this is okay, or have a debate with those people who frequently use these illegal downloading sites. Explain to me why you think this is okay, why you feel justified in taking, and that's what you're doing, you're stealing creative works by somebody because it's just creative. I'm not stealing a car. I'm not stealing a motorcycle. I'm not stealing, towels from Walmart. I'm just stealing digital content. That's all I'm doing. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm just stealing this one little piece of digital content. The author's making all our books on paperbacks. No, we're not. We make the vast majority of our income comes from the digital content. So when you justify stealing creative content, whether it's from an author, a musician, a movie maker, an artist, whatever, you're lying to yourself, because stealing is stealing. Doesn't matter what you're stealing, it's stealing. Whether you can actually physically hold it in your hand or not, if you are enjoying getting some benefit from that item you stole, that digital item, whether it's a movie, a book, an audiobook, whatever, music, if you gain some form of enjoyment or pleasure from that creative vessel and you didn't pay for it, and you know for a fact you got it from one of these illegal illegal downloading sites, such as Open Library, you're lying to yourself. You're a thief. It's that plain and simple. And I've also heard people argue, well, I can't afford, I have a book addiction like you would not believe. And I can't afford to read all the books I want because I'm too poor. Well, I've heard that argument before. And a couple of years ago, I think it was Canada, a newspaper in Canada, who took a survey of from people who actually literally admitted to stealing ebooks. And what they found was the vast majority, I'm talking 90% of the people who answered this survey, were doctors, lawyers, teachers, nurses, physicians, dentists, accountants. These were not poor people. Poor people understand what it's like to have stuff taken from them. They get it. They know how hard we work. And a true poor person is not going to steal content from somebody. They're just not. They will go to their local library. If your book addiction is so vast and so intense, get a library card. Go to your library and check out as many books as you want. Well, my library doesn't carry the books I want. They will if you ask. All you got to do is tell a librarian. That's all you got to do. Tell your librarian, I want this book. That's all you got to do. They'll get it for you. So these excuses that I've heard over the years are just that. They're piss poor excuses. My God, this one fly in my office has been irritating me all day. Okay, back to this lawsuit. Hi, Linda. The court must consider the harm to the value of the works if Open Library's CDL practices were to become widespread and unrestricted. So what they're saying is, if Open Library IA wins this lawsuit, it's open season. Market harm under the fourth factor is much broader than simply adding up specific instances of past harm. You can't just look at the money that was taken from us in the past. You also have to look at what it's going to do to us in the future. Okay? If IA is allowed to continue on their current acts of thievery, I'm trying to use my nice words here, it's going to be detrimental to everyone. Nobody will be safe. Under Campbell, the court must weigh the market harm that would result if the infringing conduct were to become unrestricted and widespread. Campbell v. Acuff Rose Music, 510 U.S. 569 590 1994. If IA were to prevail in this action, then any library or even anyone who calls themselves a library, like IA, Open Library, does, could digitize books and make them available. If that were the case, libraries would no longer have any need to license books. Did I already read that? But basically, it's the same thing. Relatively few libraries are currently partner libraries in the Open Libraries program, mainly, it appears, due to their rightful concerns about copyright. So even legitimate libraries understand that Open Library is not legit. So they try to avoid it. It is difficult to imagine how a viable library licensing ebook market could be sustained in the case if IA wins. Further, any entity that calls itself a library could use a decision condoning Open Library to justify making digital copies of physical books and distributing them as ebooks, blah, blah, blah. They've gone over this. I have not read this before I did live, but something just caught my eye and it makes me very happy. And that is exactly what some of the world's most popular high-volume pirate sites, such as Library Genesis, also known as LibGen, Z Library, hate those people, and now the defunct KISS Library already do. Library Genesis. Far from operating in the shadows, these notorious pirate sites appear prominently in search results and informational articles alongside legal libraries and ebook resources such as Project Gutenberg, Overdrive, and others. For example, the third result in a simple Google search query for download free ebooks elicits an article from popular how-to website makeuseof.com. That lists Library Genesis at number 2 on the list as 10 best free ebook download sites. Even more alarmingly, Z Library, possibly, I hate Z Library, with a passion, possibly the most high profile and highly trafficked book piracy site in the world, which unabashedly calls itself the world's largest ebook library, appears third in results for the query free ebook library and fourth in the query for ebook library. After library ebook sales and licensing platform Overdrive and the New York Public Library's popular ebook central catalogs. So they provide screenshots to this. I hate this. I friggin' hate this. And they try to justify it saying, we're just trying to help readers. We're just trying to help readers. And some will even say, well, we're trying to help authors find new readers. No. All you're doing is finding us new thieves to steal our works. That's all you're doing. You're not doing nothing else. You're not helping us. You're not helping readers. You're legitimizing an illegal activity. Okay, this does not help us, authors, creatives, at all. Period. End of story. Zip zilch. They can say, well, we don't make any money. We don't sell these books. We're not selling copies of the books. No, but I'm not a dumbass. I know you're making money on the advertising. Your websites have been monetized. That's where you get the money. And I guarantee you that some of these websites are making a hell of a lot more money than I do. And I make a really, really good living at this. At least I consider it a really good living. I get to do this full time. But these other websites Good God above. $100,000 a month? Maybe more? I don't know. But I know it's a lot of freaking money that they make from monetizing their websites. So for them to say we're just trying to help readers, that is bullshit. I'm calling bullshit. You're doing this to make money. You can say, that you just want to help. You just want to give back to the community. That's bullshit. I'm calling bullshit. God, I hope I don't get kicked off for having a potty mouth. Okay, back to this. The interpolation of the high traffic pirate sites with legitimate library portals and common search results is both a product of elaborate subterfuge by pirate sites to appear as legitimate libraries and an inability to distinguish them from legal library lending and illegal downloads by internet readers. These sites they look so legitimate, and for lack of a better term, real, that you can't tell the difference. Okay? You just can't. You think it's a legitimate lending library, and it's not. The lack of distinction between pirate sites and legitimate ebook sources, and the lack of safeguards to prevent pirate sites from appearing in responses to innocent search queries is devastating to authors and publishers. Hang on. I had to get a little bit of a mint. So when you go to a search engine such as Google and you type in free books or free ebooks, 99% of the time, Open Library is going to come up, LibGen is going to come up, Z Library is going to come up, and these are illegal book downloading sites. Okay, so they're not taking people. If you don't know any better, you're really truly trying to find free books, and that's fine. I've done free books on my books a lot, as I've already discussed. But anyway, it takes them away. The host is inviting you. No, I'm going to decline. I don't know who that is. Anyway, when you go to a search engine such as Google and you type in free ebooks, then it's going to take you to the pirate sites instead of the legitimate websites such as Amazon or Nook or Apple or Kobo or Overdrive or the author's website. So that's detrimental to us. Okay. In sum, the fourth fair use factor is not a damage calculation, but requires the court to weigh the consequences of such a ruling on the library ebook market, which would likely disappear as a source of revenue for many members of Amici, as well as the entire consumer ebook market, which will likely be gravely damaged as well. The owned-to-loan fiction asserted by IA does not eliminate the market harm open library causes. The basic underlying assumption of owned to loaned is that the market for owned print books and the market for loaned ebooks are the same market, so that circulation of a copyrighted work in any format is fungible with circulation of that work in any other format. The record belies that assumption, as copyright owners and libraries have over many years created and participated in entirely separate markets for the sale of physical books and the licensing of ebooks at different prices and on different terms and conditions. So let's say a library buys an ebook copy of one of our books. Well, sometimes they will have a limit to the number of times they can loan that book out legitimately, right? So I'm just going to make up numbers here. So they have purchased my book, a digital copy of my book. I'm not talking about the print. They purchased the digital copy of the book, and the library says, okay, we're going to loan this out 100 times, and then after 100 times, we're going to buy another copy. So that's what they're talking about. Accordingly, the Ninth Circuit in Vidangel rejected the fair use argument of the defendant video service, which bought legitimate copies of videos, created edited versions, and then streamed the edited versions to the nominal owners of those authorized copies. So they took a movie, maybe cut out a scene, maybe added a scene, I don't know, and then sold it. The fact that the process began with a legitimate copy in no way frees defendant to usurp a further market that directly derives from reproduction of the plaintiff's copyrighted works. Likewise, in Clean Flicks of Colorado versus Soderbergh, the defendant bought legitimate DVD copies of videos, made edited family-friendly versions of the videos, burned the edited versions onto new DVDs, and sold each edited DVD together with the original unedited DVD. This required maintaining a 1-to-1 ratio of the original and edited versions, like Open Library id at 1240, but was held infringing even though the plaintiffs do not compete in this alternative market for edited versions of their films. If the 1-to-1 ratio did not sufficiently favor defendant in Clean Flicks, even when plaintiffs did not participate in the alternative market, it is an even weaker factor here where copyright owners actively license libraries to lend books. So it's the same thing. They buy a paperback copy, scan it, digitize it, upload it. It's the same damn thing. The harm that results from Internet Archive's unauthorized scanning and distribution of copyrighted works is not limited to substitution of a publisher's library, ebook lending licenses, or consumer ebooks. I'm going to take a step back. So let's say I don't have my books in ebook format at all. They're just paperbacks, just audiobooks. IA is trying to say that they can take the print book, scan it, and turn it into an ebook because that's transformative, and it's not. Amici respectively ask the court to consider the implications of IA's activity on this market, which may be smaller and less prominent than the traditional market for publishers' books, but that is no less significant to authors' earnings. IA's activities harm authors both by substituting their potential income from publishers, consumer sales, and ebook licenses, and by substituting for ebook editions of books that publishers have ceased production, referred to as out of print, and the author have brought back into print. So, like I was telling you earlier, you have a contract with a big press, New York Press, HarperCollins, Harlequin, whatever, and let's say the term is for 5 years, and after 5 years, the author gets the rights to that book back, but they might only gain back the paperback rights, okay? So it'll be up to the author to publish those paperbacks, or vice versa, where they get back their ebook rights, but the publisher maintains the paperback rights for another 3 years. The author that can then offer it in digital format. I think you guys get it. Authors generally rely on multiple revenue streams to pull together a living, and they are increasingly exploring new ways to revive out-of-print works when the rights have reverted to them, especially as ebooks. Yet IA denies this market even exists. It's because they're liars. They're thieves. It claims that copying and distributing out-of-print books is fair use. No, it's not. It's stealing. Because unavailability of a book through normal trade channels means there's no market for the work. And hence, there can be no harm to the author. Again, it's bullshit. I'm calling bullshit. This wanton assumption ignores the myriad ways in which authors reuse and reissue works that have gone out of print and to which publishers have reverted rights. So, you all get this, right? You all understand. IA's arguments are basically, this book is out of print, so I can do with it what I please. No, you friggin' can't. I don't care if you purchased a copy of this book at a yard sale You can't scan it and turn it into a digital book. It is still stealing. I just got a text from my producer on my YouTube channel. She said that fly keeps landing on your head. I know, it's driving me nuts, and I forgot to grab my fly swatter. So I'm sorry. Rights reversions in the back and print market. Most trade book contracts grant exclusive rights to the publisher for the duration of the copyright, life of the author plus 70 years. But they also contain a clause known as the reversion of rights or out of print clause, which allows authors to request their rights back if the book is out of print or no longer available for sale through normal retail channels or available through the publisher's catalog, or if sales fall under a certain amount. Once such event occurs, there are some typos in this, and it's really starting to irritate me. Once such event occurs, the author has a right to demand a reversion of rights, and the publisher typically has 6 months to respond by either informing the author that it intends to reprint the book and then do so within a specific time period, or to grant the request. A reversion of rights or out of print clause is a critical component of a publishing contract, and for authors, getting rights back is a highly consequential event, because it allows them, the author, to exploit the work in myriad other ways to generate income. Each year, the Authors Guild legal team handles approximately 35 to 40 reversion of rights matters, and literacy agents. Oh, this should be, I'm sorry, it should be and. Literacy agents, literary, not literacy, it's literary. Literary agents routinely assist their clients to get rights back, and authors also contact their publishers directly to request the reversions of claims. Self-publishing new editions of books previously published by trade publishers is an increasingly popular way to exploit their reverted rights. Typically, the amount an author can expect to earn from the sale of a self-published copy, or even for a download of a single chapter or excerpt, is higher than their trade royalty from an individual sale. The author's royalty for a new traditionally published print book is typically only 5 to 15% of the list price of the book. Recently, smaller publishers are paying the same percentage, but on net receipts, which is the amount left over after deducting taxes, discounts, and other fees from the book price, blah, blah, blah. By comparison, authors can obtain as much as a 35 to 70% of each sale of a self-published copy. Several models exist today, from self-publishing through Kindle Direct Publishing, Apple Books, Kobo, and Nook. They left Nook out. I put it in there because I really like Barnes & Noble. To reissues by niche, smaller publishers in genre markets and reading apps for authors to reissue out-of-print books as new editions and earn more from them. So, authors working in particular genres such as romance, mystery, horror, and thriller frequently reissue previously published and reverted titles in box sets. That's where we will take... I write in series, love writing in series. I have several mini series out there. And I will take the first two books in a 4-book series, and I will box them together. So when they buy that, they get both books for a certain price, or I'll put all 3 or 4 books, or even 5 books in the same bundle and sell it for a specific price, and usually it's at a good discount for the reader. Academic authors often reissue titles, which keeps their work relevant and accessible while also contributing to their income. Authors also use their reverted titles to create first edition digital ebooks of their works, which open libraries scanned copies directly preempt, as well as audioworks. Since 2016, the Author Guild's Back in Print program has republished 215 books by Authors Guild members. This is number 2, the significance of author income from back in print books and reuses. The total revenue generated by reissues, the typos in this are really, it's starting to get a little itchy. Sorry, just a little itchy. The total revenue generated by reissues in many cases may be modest in comparison to when a book first enters the market, but the income authors receive from them is far from negligible and can sometimes make the difference between being able to pay the mortgage or not, and this is true. As such, the harm to authors from the impact of IA's activities on this market is in some ways more profound due to two related reasons. One, the smaller size of the back and print market compared to the traditional market, and two, the overall decline in author incomes. Because the size of the back and print market is relatively small compared to the market for new books, the displacement of a small number of total potential sales by Open Library has a disproportionate impact on the author's earnings, as those lost sales cannot be rectified through overall volume of sales for that title. If a reader who is interested in books searches for it online and finds an unauthorized scanned copy on Open Library, I'm going to insert my own words here, or any illegal downloading pirating site, there will be less of an incentive for the reader to pay for an author's self-published copy, from which the author may stand to gain anywhere between 35 to 70% of the sale made through a typical online ebook retailer. So, depending on the price of the book, like with Amazon, anything $2.99 and higher, we get a 70% royalty. But any book we set lower than that, like the 99-cent books, we're only getting 35% of that 99 cents. So we're only getting, what is that, 33%, 33 cents, something like that, or 3 cents? I don't know, but it's not enough. But anyway, if 10 potential users opt for the unauthorized scan over the authorized copy, then the author has already lost $70 to $140. Okay. This amount may seem like a pittance to some, but weighed against the extreme depression in author incomes over the years, it's a lot of money. And that $70, that might be buying somebody's groceries for the entire freaking month. And with today's insane inflation, not going to go there, but $70 ain't a lot of food. According to the 2018 Authors Guild Income Survey, the median writing income of full-time book authors was $20,300, which is below the current federal poverty guidelines for a family of 3. I am blessed that I make way more than that, but I know just from speaking, hi Lexi, to other authors, that I know authors who don't even make that much. But yes, that's well below the current federal poverty guidelines for a family of 3. So another reason it pisses me off. In this precarious context, even a few $100s per year from reissue earnings amount to significant earnings. To illustrate the importance of reissue earnings and how authors participate in this market, Amicus, the Authors Guild, shares just a few anecdotes from their members. Okay. I'm the author, and this is not me. I'm reading from the brief. This is not me. I'm the author of more than 100 novels, most of them traditionally published. I have been reissuing my romances, mysteries, and other novels since 2010. During this time, my earnings from my reissued books have kept me solvent through treatment for breast cancer, through putting 2 sons through college, and through numerous other financial challenges. At this point, I have reissued approximately 80 of my books. Reversions allowed me to exploit digital rights. I was able to invest in a startup imprint which has republished all the HarperCollins originals, and I received income directly from those sales. A trilogy was repackaged as a box set and placed in KDP Select, and all royalties and read-through percentages accrued to me. The author prefers to remain anonymous. Another one says, I'm making about $8,000 a year. I'd probably do better if I were better at publicity. This is obviously far less than I made at blank, but it's still more money from books I wrote 10, 15, and 20 years ago. This other author says, I did a 4-book fantasy series for Scholastic called The Unicorn Chronicles. The first volume sold over 1 million copies. I regained the rights to the series and have been republishing the books myself. Right now, the books are published as ebooks through a number of vendors and as print on demand via Amazon. The way they are tracking, I expect to meet about $10,000 from them this year. I should note that this is with virtually no publicity or advertising, save from pushing them on my Facebook and Twitter pages. So you can see not all authors make enough to stay solvent. So the problem's bad enough as it is. So when you have places like these illegal book downloading websites who come in and steal your work, and they make a profit off of it, either by selling it or through their subscription service or through monetization, that ain't right. And no one on this planet is going to convince me otherwise. So reissuing previously published works to generate income is by no means restricted to writers. Reissued works is a substantial source of income for photographers and artists who license illustration, designs, and photography for new uses. Visual works and images that become recognizable and popular through prior use regularly repackaged into commercial products and open new markets for their creators. I'm sorry, I'm getting messages. I'm sorry. It's like squirrel. Let's see. If they wanted to help authors, they would stop. Exactly. So back to my comments earlier about these sites saying they want to help authors. They're not helping authors. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Here's another great question Elizabeth Wheatley is asking over on my YouTube channel. Does Amazon punish authors in KU whose books end up on pirate sites? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And sometimes it can be a hard battle to fight, trying to convince Amazon that your book isn't there voluntarily, it was stolen, right? So that's a very good question. And I have had it had it happen to me, but fortunately, I have a KDP rep that I can reach out to and say, hey, just found this on a pirate site. And the other half of the team is saying, I'm violating KU. So I solved that little problem by none of my books are in KU now. So I don't think any are. They shouldn't be. But anyway, that's a really good question. And yes, authors do get in trouble when you have a book that is in Kindle Unlimited. That means it's exclusive to Kindle. And that's a legitimate subscription service where people pay $9.99 a month or whatever it is to read as many Kindle Unlimited books. Those are books that are in Kindle Unlimited as they want to in a month. And that works great for some authors. They get paid a pittance, though, for each page that's read. But when you have, let's say you have 100 books out and those books are 100,000 pages long, it can add up to a lot of money. And it really does work for some authors. But when an author has a book in KU, Kindle Unlimited, that means it can't be available anywhere else on the internet. Okay? Just can't be, whether it's free or for sale or not. It cannot be anywhere else. So Amazon it has crawlers out to find books, Kindle Unlimited books that might be available somewhere else on another website. And they might not realize that it's a pirate site or an illegal book downloading site, whatever, name you want to slap on it. And the author does get punished. So that was a really, really good question, Elizabeth Wheatley, and I thank you for that. So back to, yes, I have to have cheetah readers. So back to the brief. Open Library will deprive copyright owners of royalties paid for lending by non-U.S. libraries under the public lending right. Another source of revenue for members of Amici is royalty income from the public lending right, PLR. Currently, 34 countries, including the United Kingdom, Every country in Europe, Canada, Israel, and Australia support authors, illustrators, photographers, translators, and other creators with cash payments from the national government in compensation for the free library lending of their books. Writing in WIPO magazine, Jim Parker observed in 2018 that PLR payments make a real difference in authors' lives, and PLR can be a lifesaver for established and retired writers with long backlists of published works which remain available for loan in public libraries even when their works are out of print. Hi, Lily. Even U.S. authors receive a share of PLR royalties collected in certain countries. In just the last 3 years, the Authors Registry, an affiliate of the Authors Guild, has received $952,466 in PLR fees from just one country, the Netherlands, of which it has thus far paid out $718,583 to individual U.S. authors. While the average payment was $157, over 150 payments to authors were over 1,000, and the largest was 10,864. If IA's activities were to become widespread, library lending to members of the public in countries that have implemented PLR would inevitably decline as readers worldwide would access IA's unauthorized, frictionless open library substitutes rather than borrowing either print or electronic copies from their local libraries. Such non-U.S. revenues are properly cognizable as market harm under the fourth fair use factor. Not only is this market traditional, reasonable, or likely to develop, it exists and is mandated by law in most of the developed world. So this is the conclusion. Authors, illustrators, photographers, and other creators of books make a vital contribution to education, to literacy, and to the shared culture on which our society rests. Impoverishing authors threatens to impoverish that culture. Libraries are an essential means by which those contributions are made available to the public, but without the creators, libraries would have nothing to lend. Libraries have always been a critical part of overall publishing ecosystem and have always paid for each of the copies they lend to their users. To sustain the publishing economy that allows authors and other creators to continue to create, they should continue to do so. For the foregoing reasons and the reasons set forth in the plaintiff's memorandum of law, plaintiff's motion for summary judgment should be granted in all respects. And I agree, Robert. Clarida and Brett Van Benthuizen, Reitler, Kellis, and Rosenblatt, LLP, out of New York. So, yes, I agree 1,000%. So that is the amicus brief that the Authors Guild filed on behalf of all authors and creators. It's reminding me again, please like and subscribe and share and do all the YouTube things, turn on your notifications, follow me on TikTok, follow me on YouTube, follow me on Instagram. It's just Susan Tisdale everywhere, no matter where you go. I'm sorry, I'm trying to read some comments. And I want to send a special shout out to Samantha Cole. I get really busy sometimes and I don't always get to check my emails, and she was the one that told me today that the Authors Guild had sent out the email, and I was tickled. I was really tickled when I saw what was going on. Okay, I'm just trying to make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay. Let's read this. On July 7th, 2022, Hachette Book Group, HarperCollins, Penguin Random House, and Wiley filed a motion for summary judgment in their copyright infringement lawsuit. No, you are not joining me. I don't know who you are. Decline. This is my first really lengthy TikTok live, and there's all sorts of things going on, and I don't know if I'm doing something right or if I'm doing something wrong. So I'll get the hang of it. So I appreciate all of you being patient with me. So anyway, copyright infringement lawsuit against the Internet Archive, arguing that they have proffered sufficient evidence for the court to declare the Internet Archive's mass scanning and distribution of in-copyright books illegal. The lawsuit also takes aim at the legally dubious controlled digital lending theory that the Internet Archive has used to justify its copyright violations. While we are not party to the suit, the Authors Guild stands firmly alongside the publishers in fighting to stop the Internet Archive's blatant assault on copyright. Let's see. Okay, and we have reiterated over the years the Internet Archive's scanning and distribution of copyrighted books through its open library portal and the now defunct National Emergency Library is illegal. It is piracy, pure and simple. I agree. However, artfully disguised as fair use and public service. Indeed, as litigation uncovered, the Internet Archive scanning operation, far from the beneficent public service its founder Brewster Kahle and its supporters pitch it as, is lucrative commercial enterprise that between 2011 and 2020 generated $30 million in revenue from libraries. Mr. Kahle evangelizes the credo, information wants to be free. Guess what? I'd like to be a size 8 again. These two things ain't happening. So Mr. Kahle, however you pronounce it. I'm trying to use nice words. Okay. Information wants to be free, but authors whose median income from full-time writing is a stark $20,300 are paying the cost, and this is the truth. Time and again, we have explained publishing economics to Mr. Kahle and Internet Archive supporters the simple fact that authors need to be able to earn from their writing in order to keep writing, and that copyright licensing is how authors make a living. More than 6,000 authors and their supporters petitioned him to stop, but our appeals fell on deaf ears. Mr. Kahle himself made hundreds of millions of dollars selling patented technologies to companies like Amazon. Ooh, I did not know this. He could have given his patents away and made his technology open source, right? Why is that not fair? Can someone answer me this? He can make millions selling a freaking patent, but steal our books and make money off of that. See, I did not know this. I'm sorry you are watching me get pissed on live social media. Mr. Kahle himself made hundreds of millions of dollars selling patented technologies to companies like Amazon. He could have given his patents away and made his technology open source, but he chose not to. Yet he expects authors to stand by in silence while their works are copied and distributed without permission. Mr. Khalil, however you say your name, bite me. I have just as much a right to make money off of what I create as you do. What you're doing is freaking illegal. I hope you get fleas in your crotch and your arms are too short to scratch it. This pisses me off. Books and other creative works are national treasures. The United States is fortunate to have so many award-winning authors dedicated to their craft and enriching the nation's culture and society. It's long past time for the court to step in and shut down this charade. Exactly. We've been fighting this for years. I published my first book. I'm sorry, I'm getting mad. I'm sorry. I published my first book in December of 2011. I didn't know what a book pirate was until after I published, and now I know. Learning that he sold his patent and made millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. He makes millions on this website. I'm done paying for assholes like that. I'm done. He probably has a yacht or like Reverend Peckerhead had an airplane. We've got to come up with a really good nickname for this guy. Please help me find a really good nickname for this guy. I would say Mr. Magoo, but I like Mr. Magoo, and that would be an insult. Anyway, hopefully, oh God, I would give anything to be in the audience for this trial, if it goes to trial, if the judge doesn't grant summary judgment, if Mr. Kale, if somebody could tell me how to pronounce that, I would really, really, really appreciate that. If he decides not to go to court. Oh, God, this pisses me off. So sorry. So sorry. Calm down, Susan. Calm down. I love you, Shannon. I really do. Yeah, it pisses me off that they sold to Amazon. That's another topic for another time. Anyway, my message to those people who commented on my previous video about Open Library. Again, it's not a legitimate site, no matter how much they want to portray it as such. It's not a legitimate site. What they're doing is stealing, and you will not be able to convince me that there's any justification for it. So, but I have to go because I need to figure out what to make for dinner. I might have my husband take me out because I really don't feel like cooking. I'm too mad. I'm just way too mad. Armpit? Oh, Captain Armpit. There we go. May the fleas of 1,000 camels infest his armpits. Let's call him Captain Armpit then. And you all know who I'm talking about. Anyway, I think you're all awesome. It says I have 1.4 thousand likes. That's pretty cool. I don't know how to see my comments though. Oop. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh. Okay. Have fun interaction with your viewers in real time, and remember to create a safe viewing experience for followers on our community guidelines. Well, hopefully I haven't violated TikTok's community bylines or guidelines, not bylines. Writing on the brain, or YouTube's. And I'm going to go so I can find my fly swatter and kill this one fly who's been irritating the hell out of me all day. I'm done with him, and I'm going to nickname this fly Captain Armpit. And I will just no, I won't do that. That might be bad. I can bleep if you want. Okay. My producer's messaging me. This stupid fly. Anyway, this was fun. You can follow me over on my YouTube channel, Susan Tisdale, the Cheeky Wench, over on YouTube. You can follow me on TikTok. Those of you who don't follow me there, I'm also on Instagram. Just search for Susan Tisdale and you will find me. And I'm going to run. I hope you all have a marvelous day. I think this lawsuit is great news for authors everywhere. And I really hope that the court sees things the way we see it. Because if they don't, we're all screwed and we're going to have to get day jobs. That's all there is to it. So anyway, I think you're all awesome. I love you all. Everybody have a great rest of your Monday, and God bless, and I'll talk to you later. End stream. How do I end this? Ooh, I don't know how to stop the live video. Pause live. Okay. You all get to see me trying to figure this out.